making him the youngest player to ever debut for Barcelona in a La Liga
What the
fixture.
freak?
You think I'll cross and take my mans out, just kill yourself. In the trenches, 40 on my hip, I had to fix my...
Since they were young, Player A scored 12 goals in 48 appearances for their debut season at Barcelona, while Player B scored 1 goal in 9 appearances in his debut season for Barcelona. In fact, let's quickly look at their other stats for the next 4 seasons for Barca. Interesting. But before you make your guess on who these players are, let me just add the fact that Player A is Barcelona's youngest goal scorer in La Liga history. Player A, also up until 2018, was Barcelona's youngest goal scorer in Champions League history and the 3rd youngest goal scorer ever in the Champions League. Lastly, in 2007, Player A broke Player B's record as the youngest goal scorer to ever debut for Barcelona. Now, I want you to pause the video and quickly comment who you think each player is. No cheating by looking at the comments, because we'll all know.
You think it's Neymar?
Player A.
Yeah, it looked like Neymar though. That picture though, like Neymar when he was bald.
If you edited your answer or not. So if you guessed that Player A is no other than Lionel Messi, then congratulations.
But like the thing is though, I think because they're not in the video, he's not naming the video though. So like.
You're absolutely wrong. Player B is Lionel Messi, while Player A is no other than his younger cousin, Bojan Krkic. I wasn't kidding when I wrote the title. He was, without a doubt, the most hyped and promising wonder kid not only in Barcelona history, but in the history of Spain. But why has his name fallen completely off of the footballing world? This isn't your typical wonder kid story, and I wanted to structure this video a lot differently from other videos you've seen of Bojan out there. Plus, I already started on the script last week, and I'm not about to waste it, so here's a different look on what happened to Bojan Krkic.
Well, I was right, Krkic.
The story of Bojan Krkic is one of many failed wonder kids who never lived up to their potential. We've heard and seen players like that many times already, and I can't even count the number of examples I know. After all, it's like the old saying goes, it's not how you start, but how you finish. Or, my favorite, it's a marathon, not a sprint. But what makes Bojan different is that he was probably the most hyped European wonder kid and most promising Barcelona youth product of all time. I mean, you saw the intro. I know many of you thought his numbers were better than even Messi's at an early age, but it goes back even further than that. Bojan was a Catalan native and was with Barca's youth program since he was 8 years old, and never had a Barca youth product been as promising as Bojan. In fact, he scored 423 goals during his time at Barcelona's youth system, making him the highest goal scorer to ever come out of La Masia. It was also rumored that he broke every possible record there was in every youth category at Barca. Imagine Lionel Messi if he was in his prime at a young age. That's exactly what Bojan looked like when he was playing against other kids. His dribbling and the way he scored was even similar to that of Messi's playstyle.
First of all, I'm not trying to imagine that. Why is he telling us to imagine shit like that? We seen it. This nigga literally said some 400-something goals. That makes no freaking sense. Why is he leaking my freaking highlights when I was young?
What?
I don't want to stop using my stats, not goals that I did young when I was young.
Soccer when you was younger, bro.
You was in Texas when I was in Michigan. Freight. I was real life playing.
For like 4
Heck,
years.
even their hair was similar. Interestingly enough, it's not entirely a coincidence. After all, Messi and Bojan are actually cousins. Well, 4th cousins to be more specific. They share the same great-great-great-grandfather, Mariano Perez Morales. One thing for sure is that their ancestor definitely had some of the greatest swimmers in football history. Before he had even moved on to Barca's men's team, he would be called up to play for Spain during the UEFA Euro Under-17 Championships, where he was the joint top scorer and even scored a hat-trick during the tournament. Oh yeah, and while it was the Under-17 Championships, Bojan was only 15 years old, making him one of the youngest participants, yet still outplaying everyone who was older than him. Bojan
Wait, why is he 15 in the tournament? Why is he 15? Why is he 15 with a medal in his hand? A medal in his neck and a medal in his hand? Too many trophies right now.
Placed despite multiple injuries happening to the Spanish starters. Then the following summer, at 16 years old, he would travel with Spain once more to South Korea for the Under-17 World Cup, where he once again carried Spain, but this time all the way to the final, where they would unfortunately lose to Ghana, but still was the third highest goal scorer and winner of the bronze ball as the third best player on the tournament. And when he finally reached the age of 17, just by looking at Bojan's pace, dribbling, and scoring ability, it was an obvious no-brainer to sign him on to Barcelona's men's team. He would come on as a sub during a match against Osasuna, making him the youngest player to ever debut for Barcelona in a La Liga
What
fixture.
the freak?
Breaking Lionel,
What did he
the
just
youngest
do?
player to ever debut for Barcelona in a La Liga fixture, breaking Lionel Messi's record by a couple of months. Then, just 3 days later, he broke Barcelona's record at the time as the youngest to ever debut in a Champions League match after coming in as a sub for no other than his cousin, Lionel Messi. Quite impressive for a 17-year-old, right? The hype was surely understandable, but that's not even all of it. In the same season, he would score a 25th-minute goal against Villarreal, becoming Barcelona's youngest goal scorer ever at just 17 years and 50 days old. Then he would go on to score against Schalke, making him the third youngest to ever score in the Champions League. He would finish his first season at Barca with 12 goals in 48 appearances, setting one last record as the most goals ever scored in a debut season. When was the last time you saw a kid do something like this? Because honestly, there was nobody else to do this. Bojan was so impressive that the Spanish men's team came calling for the 2008 European tournament. But why was this special? Well, here's some context. Spain was beginning their golden generation of football. Spanish fans knew that this time around they had an insanely good squad. There was a silent revolution going on in world football, with Spanish players making up most of the best players in the world. You all know them. They ruled international football from 2008 to 2012 and had the most dominant international run by any country in a span of over half a decade. The only team to win 3 major international tournaments in a row. And this squad believed that Bojan was good enough to be a part of their world-conquering lineup. Do you understand just how much confidence and belief the elite Spanish squad would need to bring a minor to their squad when they knew that they had the best chance of winning that their country has ever had before? A lot. Bojan would have been the youngest on the squad, and they knew that he was good enough and had the skill to match their expectations. He would have made history yet again as the youngest player to ever debut for a Spanish international squad at 17 and a half years old. However, he never decided to go. At the time, Bojan cited fatigue and personal reasons for not joining the would-be iconic Spanish side. The 17-year-old was then absolutely hated by Spanish media and Spanish fans. Imagine this, you're a die-hard Spanish fan back in 2008, and you know that this is probably the best Spanish squad ever assembled, with the most promising youngster in your country's history asked to join along. And then you find out he would rather go on vacation and rest than represent his country in Europe's biggest competition.
Bro, look, he don't. They're looking he gonna win regardless though. Cause you see how the niggas.
Yes, that whole
good
team was
that-
stacked. Look
that
at him.
Team, that team is looking good as shit, fool. Yeah, bro. There's no way those probably still gonna win now.
What would you think? Spanish media blasted Bojan as a lazy, arrogant, and uncommitted star that just wanted to get paid and then spend his free time relaxing and going on vacation.
Come on, dude.
Now imagine trying to sympathize with Bojan but seeing newspaper headlines, television programs, and even radio shows painting a narrative that Bojan simply doesn't care about representing Spain. I'm betting you would feel very negatively towards him. Bojan became Spain's public enemy #1. And when the Spanish squad went all the way and won the tournament, Bojan would get so much hate from Spanish fans. Now imagine being a 17-year-old kid and having all that pressure to perform. Pressure from your club, who you're breaking every single record in and expected to be the next all-time great, and pressure from your country to become the next member of Spain's all-time greats. On top of that, imagine turning on the TV and seeing so much hate towards you, or looking at the newspaper and everyone making fun of your work ethic or questioning your life decisions. Personally, I know that I definitely couldn't handle that, especially as a 17-year-old. And the truth behind Bojan's reasoning for not joining wouldn't be out until 2018. In an interview, Bojan admitted he suffered from anxiety. He said, "At 17, my life changed entirely. I went to the Under-17 World Cup in July and no one knew me. When I came back, I couldn't even walk down the road. A few days later, I made my debut against Osasuna. Then 3 or 4 days later, I play in the Champions League, then I score against Villarreal, and then Spain called. Your head feels until there's a moment that your
okay,
body...
see, that's what it is, though. He was not ready for all that shit, though. Look how much shit he was going through. That's hella shit. That's hella shit. He wasn't ready for it. He only 17. All that shit was jumping. I mean...
Yeah, you can't
getting towards that nigga.
That young is insane, man.
Bro.
It's hard to really, like...
Let me go back, bro. Look what you said,
My life
bro.
changed.
Look, bro.
Bojan admitted he suffered from anxiety. He said, "At 17, my life changed entirely. I went to the Under-17 World Cup in July and no one knew me. When I came back, I couldn't even walk down the road. A few days later, I made my debut against Osasuna. Then 3 or 4 days later, I play in the Champions League. Then I score against Villarreal. And then Spain called. Your head feels until there's a moment that your body says stop. Anxiety affects everyone differently. I spoke to someone who felt like their heart was beating 1,000 times a minute. With me, it was dizziness, feeling sick, constant 24 hours a day. Bojan Krkic was an amazing footballer as a youngster, but he never had the personality that could handle so much pressure and expectations. The man was an introvert who liked to keep to himself, keep a small company of a few close friends, and didn't like that much attention at all. And that's totally fine. I'm sure many of you feel the
That's kind
same
of
way.
crazy though, because sometimes the shit, people want to do what they love, but they ain't know what the shit gonna what it was gonna come with and shit. Sometimes some people do shit because they just do what they love, but that's why some people say that they didn't want to be, they didn't know they was gonna be famous. But sometimes when shit like that, because I watch hella interviews and shit like that, and they told me they just wanted to do certain stuff that made them happy, something like that. But it ended up being more than they expected because they wasn't ready for the shit, basically.
Exactly.
That should be.
It's just how he is as a person. Most footballers are definitely extroverts. They love the attention and the bright lights. When Bojan was called at a young age, nobody knew him. Those U17 Euros and World Cup tournaments didn't have crowds like men tournaments do. When he first played for Barca, the more brightly the spotlight shined on him, and the heavier the pressure was. Bojan was even on medication for his anxiety, and while he had caring teammates like Carlos Puyol looking after him, that didn't stop the onslaught of negative media. Imagine a 17-year-old Bojan that just wanted to recover physically and mentally in the off-season, wanting to mind your own business, then seeing headline after headline disrespecting you. And you might ask, back then, why didn't he tell the truth? Well, in 2008, things like mental health and social issues weren't paid attention to as much as they are today. The older generation would have found a way to make little of it and tell him to grow up or be a man. I mean, I remember being 18 and having anxiety, going to the admissions office in my university and figuring out what I wanted to do in college. Imagine what Bojan went through when his own country was against him for reasons he knew they wouldn't understand. So when I see other videos about Bojan calling his anxiety a mental illness, it definitely is a disservice and stigmatizes a very real issue that many experience. Those of us who have feeling, who are sensitive, who can be affected, need a good shield. Footballers are very young and they're exposed. Even at under 15s, players have Twitter and I'm sure they're already getting insults. It's ugly and it sullies society in football. But despite all that, for the next 4 seasons, Bojan would still perform amazingly for Barcelona. Again, look at his performances compared to Messi. But despite the high number of appearances, Bojan was always coming off the bench, and that definitely didn't help build confidence for the youngster. Some of you might be wondering, why didn't he start if he was doing better than Messi in his first 4 seasons? To answer that question, here's Barcelona's lineup when Messi joined the squad. They had forwards like Thiago Motta, Edmilson, Gerrard, and Maxi Lopez. Now, I know that many of you have no idea who most of these guys are, and even stars like Henrik Larsson would soon leave the club, so it was pretty easy to put a promising youngster like Messi in the starting lineup. But for Bojan, coming off the bench was his only option. He had players like Zlatan, Thierry Henry, Samuel Eto'o, David Villa, and of course Lionel Messi starting over him. And with Messi already blowing up as a superstar, there was no reason to really put him on the starting lineup. Thus, Bojan would leave Barcelona where he would play single seasons for Roma, Milan, and Ajax, but never really found a true home and struggled, where he would only average 5 goals a season. Then finally, his luck was turning around when he was finding a home in Stoke City, scoring more than his average numbers in just a fraction of the time, until he ruptured a knee ligament. One of the worst injuries a football player could possibly get. Even if his confidence and form were finally building up, his body would never be the same. Stoke would loan him out to minor clubs in Germany and Spain before he would move on to the MLS, and finally to Japan's J League, where he now plays alongside former teammate Andres Iniesta. Bojan might have never lived up to the insane potential he once had when he was a youngster, but admittedly, he's lived much more comfortably in the later stages of his career compared to when he was facing the major spotlight. The latter half of Bojan's career playing for smaller clubs was a much happier and peaceful time in his life, and that's absolutely fine. The most important thing isn't the trophies, it's the experiences, what's here in your heart, what you know, and what you live. No one can ever steal that from you. And those people who spoke ill of you, they'll forget. If Victor Valdez, the greatest goalkeeper in Barcelona's history, has been forgotten, how could they not forget me? And then it'll just be me. What will be left will be the pride and the moments. The unique moments lots of players have never lived.
That's a fact though, bro. I'm happy. Yeah, I'm good. It's good he went to the lower league, bro.
Yeah.
He's not made. Everybody not made for the spotlight, bro. She was smart to do that shit. As long as he was happy doing that junk, bro. You know what I'm saying?
Heard you one time to the mob. Heard that you trying to get involved with it. Heard that you trying to come by.